Apple kicks off sales of the iPad mini. Wall Street Journal reporter Ian Sherr has the story, and he's here now from our bureau in San Francisco. Ian, thank you very much for being there.
My pleasure.
So, the iPad mini, tell us about it. How has it been rolled out by Apple?
Well, it's the typical Apple style. They had a huge event in San Jose that drew a lot of attention, and it came right after the iPhone 5. And it got a lot of attention. The major reviewers did reviews and all sorts of stuff. But when it came to launch day, and even when the pre-orders, I should say, even when they were doing pre-orders last week, the white version of it sold out rather quickly. So there was a pretty good indication of demand. Then we come to launch today, and the lines around the world are pretty muted. There are some, especially in New York, there are quite a few people in line. But here in San Francisco, for example, the line was only a half a block long. And usually, if you think about the Kremlinology of it, usually there's the lines are like, around the block or at least a couple of blocks. And so, it's hard to say whether or not that means there's lower demand or whatever, but it certainly is an indication of some sort that, this rollout isn't the same and is as highly hyped as perhaps previous ones.
Particularly the iPhone 5, which we saw a few weeks ago, that was incredible.
Exactly.
A lot of people queued up for days.
Yes, exactly. And actually the people who I met in line, at least in San Francisco, had only been there at most, I think the person who got there the earliest was at 5 a.m. And the iPhone 5, the guy had shown up on Monday and it was released on Friday. So it was definitely a different experience. Now that doesn't mean that this is an indication that the product's failing or anything. All it is just one indication, and part of it is that this is all, again, the Kremlinology that we have, trying to figure out how well this thing is selling before we learn from them during their quarterly results or when they announce it the weekend after.
Now, one of the things that we normally get in the run-up to the actual release is a lot of publicity, but most of the news has been dominated by the storm here in the Northeast over the last few days. Do you think that had any impact on sort of maybe flattening the buzz we would have expected normally?
It certainly could have. It's worth noting that our review was in the paper. A number of other reviews were in their papers. And for the most part, the tech world certainly seemed to grind on as always when it came to this stuff. So I don't know whether or not it took a lot of energy away from normal consumers. That's very possible. But I think I definitely think it's worth wondering whether or not the storm had happened, whether they would have had different lines. But again, the important part is, for example, here out in San Francisco, where we've had nice and sunny days and the power's on. We're not, the lines weren't that long. So I don't know.
Is it something to do with the fact that maybe a phone, a smartphone at least, is seen as an essential item and you want to have the latest and greatest and that it can really help your life, whereas this may be considered a nice to have as opposed to a must have thing? I just throw that out there as something, it's just maybe I'm grasping at straws.
No, look, there are a lot of reasons why this could have happened. It's worth noting that when the Verizon version of the iPhone was launched back in 2011, there was a very famous photo that was taken of an Apple store where there was a person standing there in the middle of stanchions. It was an Apple employee with their shoulders shrugged, right? And just not as many people as expected. But that doesn't mean the thing didn't sell like hotcakes. So, there's a lot of reasons that this could be. This is not one of the other things about it is that, as a lot of reviews noted, the screen isn't as high quality as the standard version of the iPad. The chips aren't as fast. So this is considered kind of an entry-level version of the iPad. But at the same time, a lot of the kind of Apple thinkers out there think that this might turn out to be the stronger version of all the iPads, as the iPod mini, the music player a long time ago, became one of the strongest parts of the iPod lineup. So we really don't know. This is just one indication. It certainly is an important one, especially because it's today, and that's the only indication we have today. But it's certainly not the last answer on how this product's going to do.
Well, we shall see, as you said, soon enough. Thank you very much. Ian Sherr with the Wall Street Journal coming to us from San Francisco.